Hello and welcome to a slightly different video, in the sense that this one is about a model railway item. Last year, the Danish company Heljan, spelt Heljan, was commissioned by Rails of Sheffield and Locomotion Models to make 00 scale models of the North Eastern Railway ES1 electric locomotive, an unusual steeple cab design built way back in 1905. The original North Eastern Railway livery, representing the preserved example in her current condition, is exclusive to the National Railway Museum / Locomotion Models. Incidentally, the ES1 is on static display at the museum in Shildon, next to the branch line from Darlington to Bishop Auckland. That route is available in Train Simulator, both as part of the Weardale and Teesdale network, or the modern image Bishop Auckland to Darlington route made by Just Trains. As for the LNER and British Railways liveries, you can get them from Rails of Sheffield. As one would expect from an exclusive commission, these are not cheap models. Indeed, this is one of the more expensive engines I've got, with the single most expensive being the LNER W1, otherwise known as the Hush Hush. The ES1 is a locomotive I remember well from an old computer game called Sid Meier's Railroads, which I used to play all the time when I was in primary school. Sadly, I don't think I can play that game on my current machine, because it doesn't have a disk drive. The ES1 was one of many locomotives you could choose from to run trains on your rail system, although there's still a lot of things about that game I don't understand. I can't remember exactly when I ordered my ES1, but she certainly took more than a month to arrive in the smaller lands down under. Insert mandatory men at work reference here. It's nice to see Rails of Sheffield taking good care of the models when they go into that postage box, as I found mine wrapped in a plastic sheet and this weird bubble wrap. In fact, it's so weird it could give the Disco Duck or Welcome to the Machine songs a run for their money. And yes, I did just reference Rick Dees and Pink Floyd in the same sentence. What are you going to do about it? This is the second time I've bought something from Rails, and although I find the website design a bit awkward, the service is still admirable. And indeed, you've got every right to expect good packaging for a model as expensive as this. Also, of all the places to find fully painted Thomas Wood and Ruperto Trains items, it was this shop in the northwest of England. And here's my awkwardly slow unboxing of the ES1, looking like a crude knockoff of Sam's Trains if ever there was one. You can pause the video to read the history page in the manual, as soon as I show it on the screen. I quite like the sturdy cardboard box, which I've seen with some of my previous Heljan models, such as the HS4000 Kestrel and Class 45 Peak. Inside there's some foam sheets to help protect the model, which is housed in the standard block of ice packaging. The way this manual is laid out is largely identical to the aforementioned Class 45. In all honesty, my first impressions of this locomotive were quite good. The detail, especially below the frame, is pretty fiddly yet well done. You might not be able to see it in this picture, but there are tiny chains at each end of the bogies, though I'm not sure what those were for. The distinctive steeple cab body shell is made out of die-cast metal, which is more than can be said for Hornby's LNER W1, and I always like it when there's an element of die-cast present because it gives the model a decent amount of weight. In real life, only 2 ES1s were built, and they were unusual because they had a pantograph as well as third rail pickups. This was due to the short Newcastle quayside branch having overhead wires in the yards at each end of the branch, with a third rail everywhere else. The model's pantograph is clearly designed to be functional rather than just a dummy, as you can see the strip of metal along the top. This aspect of the engine doesn't really apply to me, since my Hornby TrakMat layout doesn't have overhead wires. I've tried to unlock the pantograph and raise it up, like what I managed to do with my Bachmann Class 85, but I didn't want to risk damaging a brand new model. As we'll see later, the ES1 is equipped with working head and cab lights, though as per the real thing, she doesn't have red marker lights of any kind. As an example of the complete opposite arrangement, the old Class 487 electric units from the Waterloo and City line did not have white headlights of any kind. Instead, the motor cars just had 2 red marker lights at each end. Here's the ES1 on my tiny layout, and before we start the short running session, I think it's worth mentioning that she's the second North Eastern engine to join the fleet. The first one was this E1 Class 060 tank, later reclassified as J72 under the LNER, and this model was also bought from Rails of Sheffield. However, the ES1 is in British Railways condition, as the real thing was painted in an NER-inspired green livery in the early 1960s. And that concludes my look at Heljan's new ES1 model. In short, I think she's a fine little engine with plenty of detail, not to mention how smoothly she can run. Although I wouldn't want to pay as much as I did for this model for any future acquisitions, if I can help it. If I remember to do so, I'll post a link to Rails of Sheffield's website in the description so you can check their listings out for yourself. And I must stress that I'm not sponsored by Rails of Sheffield or Heljan.